I'm a membership coordinator for the Iowa Newspaper Foundation. I want to thank you all for attending today's Online Media Campus webinar, Automated Podcasting with Audio Articles. Online Media Campus is a partnership between the Iowa Newspaper Foundation, state partnering press associations you see listed here, and America's newspapers. We thank all partners for their support in making it possible to bring top quality and accessible training to newspapers across the country and Canada. All upcoming and 162 archived webinars can be found at onlinemediacampus.com. Before I introduce our presenter for this afternoon, I want to let you know we do encourage questions at any time throughout the presentation. Please use the Q&A icon to submit your questions at any time, and we will work them in the program as we are able. Also, we will have an archive of this presentation available for you to view on the Online Media Campus website, and you will receive an email on how to access it once it's ready. I would now like to introduce our presenter, Matt Larson. Matt Larson is the president and CEO of Our Hometown and has proudly served the newspaper industry for 12 years. His company provides a WordPress-based platform that has been customized for newspapers to help them monetize their content online. Their mission is to help community newspapers develop digital business models with tools for better storytelling and more efficient local news production. Larson leads a monthly virtual conference series where he interviews newspaper publishers from all over the country on how they are utilizing digital to connect with socially distant readers. He is also the publisher of the Our Hometown News, a weekly blog and video and audio podcast series, which discuss tech tips, marketing strategy, and industry news and events. Thank you, Matt, for being with us this afternoon. I will now hand it over to you when you are ready.
All right, I am ready to go. Thank you so much, Erica. I appreciate that great introduction and I appreciate you organizing this. As always, you do such a great job, and the OMC and America's newspapers and all the associations that are involved. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm going to go ahead and take over the screen now. Let's see, let me choose the right one and share my audio because we're going to be listening to some stuff from my monitor. Okay, so I think we're good. Let me know if there's, you should be able to see my screen, and let's get started. So again, welcome everyone. I know we've got a lot of folks with us today. So thank you for taking this time to hear me out and learn a little bit about podcasting, a little bit more about just the podcasting world in general, but specifically about how you can automate the production of audio content and feed it to a podcast. We're going to talk about the tools that we've developed at Our Hometown that you can use as an Our Hometown customer. We can just turn these features on for you. But even without being on our WordPress platform, you can develop an automated podcast series. And we're going to talk about how that works shortly. So just a little bit of background on us, just to give you some context. Our Hometown manages hundreds of newspaper websites and native apps across North America. So our primary business is web hosting, and we've developed a WordPress-based platform to do this that has been customized for news publishers. So if you know anything about WordPress, you know it's an open source CMS. So anyone can create a WordPress site, but the key is, and the trick to it is always keeping it going and keeping it going smoothly, keeping plugins updated. So that's really our main business, is to do software as a service using WordPress. So it's just kind of, set it and forget it. You don't ever have to worry about the technical aspect of the website. It's just going to work, and it's going to be easy to use because WordPress is a blogging software, originally. So it's very easy to learn. We're a family business founded in upstate New York in 1997. And our number one priority has always been customer support. From the very beginning of the company, we have been helping newspapers produce their websites on a weekly basis. So they send us their print PDF and we update the website for them. And we still do that for the vast majority of our customers. So we're all about turnkey web publishing and helping you market your newspaper online so you can just focus on creating a great print edition. And lastly, the platform is constantly evolving, and we're going to talk today about some of the latest features that have come out in the last few months. for this, and the feature set is basically based on publisher feedback entirely. So we are always interested in feedback on what you need on your website, to be more effective, to engage with your readers. And we're constantly getting ideas from our publishers. So it's really like not a set in stone kind of thing. And the reason we can do that is because it's not a proprietary CMS. It's open source, so it's very easy to modify. Now for today, in the next 30 to 40 minutes, it's going to be a pretty short webinar today. We're going to talk about why you should get into podcasting. We're going to look at the numbers behind that, the current podcast audience in the US, some of the advertising trends that we're seeing in terms of how the money is moving into podcasting. I want to address right up front here some of the barriers to entry and the issues with producing a podcast, because these are probably things, everyone that's here today is obviously interested in podcasts. So, the question is, why haven't you started one yet? And I think everyone's got their own reasons. There's just a lot of technical reasons, that make it difficult. So we're going to talk about that because, manually producing a podcast is a lot of work. And so our solution to that is to automate the production with our technology, audio articles, and feed that into the podcast apps. Okay, now if we could all locate the questions box, we've got a Q&A box and then also a chat box, and I'm monitoring them both. So you can type your questions in either, but if you could now just type your name, the paper you're with, and what is your experience with audio podcasting, if any? Have you tried it? Have you recorded a couple episodes? Have you thought about doing it? What's your level of involvement at this point? Now, I'm trying to see, okay, I want to just see my participants list. It went away for some reason. Okay, good. All right, so just go ahead and drop those in as we go, because that'll just kind of help me orient the conversation a little bit more. So just for some really basic background, I'm sure you all know this, but I just like to get everyone on the same page because, we've heard the term podcast thrown around a lot, and I just want to boil it down for, precisely what it is. It's simply an audio program that you can subscribe to on your smartphone. That's how I would think about a podcast. And it's similar to talk radio, except it's on demand. A lot of people that come from radio have started podcasts at this point because it just makes a lot more sense. It's not like you have to tune in at a specific time to hear the show. You can come in at your convenience and get all the content. So there's a lot of benefits to it, and let alone the fact that it's mobile centric. That's probably the biggest benefit. And the third feature of every podcast is that it's presented as a playlist. And it's usually handled through a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. And the really exciting thing about podcasting is that the audio market is constantly growing. 60% of the US currently listens to online audio every week. And I like that metric because it uses the weekly frequency, which is what I'm used to thinking about. Most of our customers are weekly community newspapers. And so they're used to thinking about the audience tuning in, on a weekly basis to read the paper. And so 60% of the US is listening to podcasts. That is a significant figure. And the audience is continuing to grow. It's funny, actually. I know the Iowa Newspaper Association is involved in producing this. So I want to point out the last in-person conference I went to was in Iowa about this time last year. About a month before. It was right before everything shut down. And I was looking at the trends in podcasting then, and it was significant growth in 2019, 2018, year over year. But in 2020, it was the fastest growth that we've ever seen. So there was a 28% increase in the audience between January and April of last year. So when everyone is, stuck inside and not, able to, do their normal thing, they turn to podcasts. And then it continued to grow throughout the rest of the year. January to September, there's a 51% increase, despite the loss in commute times. And I think that's interesting because, I used to definitely tune into podcasts or play music when I was driving. And, I think some of the people in this industry were afraid that as habits changed and people aren't, out and about and needing that hands-free experience, then maybe podcast listening would go down. But no, it hasn't. It has continued to increase faster than ever. And the coolest thing is that the news genre has the highest impressions. And all this data is based on some research from Edison, the Infinite Dial, and the AdsWiz podcast trends report from 2020. And if anyone's interested in this, you can just shoot me an email. Let me drop it in the chat here, and I'll send you these research studies. Okay, now for the advertiser perspective, this is where the money opportunity is. We know that the audience is there, and so it's great to get your brand out there to this developing audience that's listening to podcasts, but there's also money flowing into this area. So podcasts actually now represent 19% of digital audio buys. So that's kind of, as you can imagine, pulling away from the online streaming of the radio stations. That's basically, they've dominated digital audio up until now. And so that's moving into podcasts. Since COVID, 64% of advertisers are spending more or the same on podcasts. And that is a big deal. It's at least stable with all these advertisers or growing. So if you look at all other digital advertising, you can't say that anywhere else. That is because, the reality is Google and Facebook are winning the war on advertising for display and traditional advertising, text advertising on their platform, but they don't have an audio component. There is no way to go on to Google or Facebook Ad Manager and buy an audio ad. So this is the opportunity, and we should jump on it as quickly as possible. 78% of respondents, this being the podcast producers, currently monetize their podcast content. And 50% of them are doing it through sponsorships and or host read ads, which are basically the same thing. It's not really an or. It's when you listen to a podcast, whenever there's an advertisement, it's virtually always the host reading that ad. I mean, I think on some of the Wall Street Journal podcasts, the daily updates, they have pre-recorded, with music, and it sounds like a radio ad. That's kind of in the minority. Most of the time you listen to a podcast and they're just going to read the advertiser message at the beginning. And again, this is from AdsWiz. Okay, now the publisher perspective. This is what I was talking about some of the barriers to entry that may have made you shy away from this in the past. Audio content is expensive to produce. There's no question about that. If you're going to pay someone to do it, then they've got to, be an expert on it. So that's going to be expensive in terms of dollars. If you're going to try to do it yourself, which a lot of our publishers are doing, and more power to them, but it does take up a significant amount of time. We actually have a publisher in Virginia that does a daily podcast, and it's a short one. He's so in the rhythm that, he's got it down, but he's been doing it for several years now. It takes a long time to get to that point. And so that's the experience that you need, experience with audio recording and editing to make it, just a really quick process, because you can't spend all day on this type of thing. And lastly, it could take a long time to grow a new audio audience that is large enough to monetize. So it's not like you can just start a podcast and then plug in Google AdSense and start getting, paid from day one. There's two reasons you can't do that. Again, there is no programmatic advertising network for podcasts that exists today. And also, even if there did exist something like that, you would need the numbers and the audience to really make it worth your while. So these are some of the hurdles that we've heard publishers bring up. And Amanda just left a comment I want to just point everyone to. She started listening to more podcasts since COVID started. So I understand how the percentage of listeners is steadily increasing. I was just talking to Erica. She's a big podcast listener. I am as well. It's just, it's a new media format. And that's all that it's very simple when you think of it like that. And as a newspaper, we need to think beyond print and now beyond website digital. We need to think into audio because there is an audience there. And, that's the bottom line. We want to get our content in front of the audience, but it's not easy for all those reasons that we listed out. So the solution, as far as we're concerned, is automation, automated audio content production. And the way that we do that for our customers is with audio articles. This is a feature that we actually released about a year ago, right at the beginning of the shutdown in January 2020. We first released the audio articles feature, which is not actually a podcast. So I just want to give you all the background. This feature automatically converts every article published on our WordPress websites into these mini podcasts. So I just want to give you a visual example of this because I'm a very visual person, and I think it helps to see what I'm talking about. So this is a site from Arizona, signalsaz.com, and they do this day in history column. And this is what audio articles is. So this is what it started out as a year ago. It's simply a player that exists on the individual article level, and it transcribes that one story, and you can listen to one story at a time. So I'm going to give you a sample of what this sounds like. And just so that you know what's going to happen, it's going to read this audio ad first, then it's going to read the body of the article. So let's check this out.
Audible stories made possible by the Prescott Hearing Center. Get your free hearing test today. It was just 80 years ago today, March 17, 1941, when then President Roosevelt announced to the world that the newest construction of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., was completed. In reality, the idea had been a long one in waiting, and had actually been approved by Congress and established in 1937. However, the National Gallery of Art is now considered to be one of the greatest museums in the world, and one of the largest marble buildings.
All right, so that is what you're going to get on every article. And I actually was incorrect. Whoops. Let me mute that. I was incorrect on this. You can actually have a different ad being read than what appears here. So this doesn't actually match up to what was read on the article, but you can have that. It's up to you. But what's key is that every person listening to this story is going to hear that advertiser message, and they're going to hear it on every article. So they really get good coverage there and great exposure on a new cutting edge tool that really helps them stand out, from all their competitors. So that's the audio articles feature. If I could just get some quick feedback, let me know if you could hear that okay, that audio, because we'll be listening to a few other examples here. Okay, so I think that's all that I wanted to say on that. That's where the technology started, and that's really the foundation of all this. So thank you very much for that feedback. So we're creating these audio files on the website, right? That's where it all starts. And then we had this idea, and the audio ads, again, can be inserted at the beginning of each audio article. So that's like the equivalent of the host read ad, so if you listen to the Tim Ferriss show, which is a very popular podcast, he will spend like the first 5 minutes reading off sponsor messages. So we kind of captured that same idea and put it into each audio article. Okay, now the next level is the automated podcasting. And this is the part that you can do without using Our Hometown as your website. We can create just the podcasts for you. And I'll get into the details of how we do that. We can't embed the player on your website so that they can listen to the story like I just showed you, but we can create a podcast show for you that can go to all of the apps and can be embedded on your homepage. So this is very exciting to me because it took the idea of audio articles to the next level. I always liked audio articles. I thought it was a nice feature to offer to readers on the website, but it was missing something. And it was missing the playlist aspect, because you would have to open up the article. You could listen to one story, and then you'd have to go find another article and hit play again. But the way people, if you talk to people that listen to a lot of podcasts, they like to be able to hit play and just listen to an entire show or the last 3 episodes of a show back to back without, constantly opening up their phone and hitting play. So now we can arrange the audio articles from your newspaper website into a playlist. We can embed that playlist on your website and at the same time syndicate those episodes across the most popular podcast apps, which are Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. And lastly, you can monetize this in a new way. So you can have the audio ad at the beginning of every episode that's like a 5-second quick plug, or you can offer a longer form sponsorship. And I would call that a sponsored content episode. And the way you would do that is by simply writing an article on your website, labeling it as sponsored content or native advertising or whatever you want to call it. And then that will get transcribed just like all the editorial content into an episode on your podcast. So as your listeners are playing one episode after another, they're listening to the stories, then all of a sudden they would listen to a sponsored content episode. And so that's another way that you can monetize it and definitely, charge more for that level of sponsorship. Automated audio content, just to expand on this a little bit more and show you some more examples. We recently did an interview with editor and publisher as part of their E&P reports. They've got a fantastic show going. I got to say, they're covering the newspaper industry very well in multimedia format. I think that they are an example to look at for all newspapers. And we were lucky enough to be invited to do a podcast interview with Mike Blinder there. And you can watch that full video. We turned it into a playlist actually on our website, our-hometown.com/virtual conferences. Vera, if you could drop that link in the chat, I would appreciate it. And in that session, we presented 2 case studies. The first was from actually the site that I showed you earlier, signalsaz.com. The executive editor there, Guy Rogenson, has been a real innovator in this, just all around. Working with Guy has been a fantastic experience ever since he launched his publication. And he also was recently interviewed by Mike on the Editor and Publisher podcast. So you can check out an episode with him exclusively that came out last week. But anyway, he was the first to recognize the opportunity here with audio articles. So he helped us develop the technology, and he was the first to monetize it with an audio ad on the website. So that was exciting because we could see that, okay, there's definitely going to be money here, and people are listening. He was getting great stats, and so that was very encouraging early on. And also, as part of the case study, we talked with Kristen Weaver, who's director of operations at WilsonCountyNews.com, and she did something really creative too. She has been selling the audio ads in a package with her Facebook Live show. And so she has a weekly show on Facebook Live where they just set up a camera in I think it's like the break room at the Wilson County News. They got this nice round table. They've got all their newspaper awards in the background. And then they invite in a local business and interview them and talk about what's in the paper. They're being very creative with multimedia there. But she had sold that audio ad spot in a package with the Facebook Live sponsorship. And she was actually the first to automatically create a podcast from the newspaper. And so again, like I was saying at the very beginning, our platform is basically the result of years of feedback from publishers. And just, they'll see a feature that we come out with and say, could it maybe also do this? And that's exactly what happened here. She saw audio articles and saw the opportunity, like, we're creating all these audio files on our website. Why don't we just feed them into a podcast so that they can become a playlist? So the inspiration really came from her. And let's take a look at what she's done on Spotify. Let's just go to the Spotify desktop site. Here is the show on Spotify, and then I'll just bring up Apple Podcasts at the same time. So as you can see, this has become a playlist. Instead of opening the article, hitting play, and then going back to the homepage, opening another article. You can listen to the whole newspaper front to back by hitting play and just letting it roll. And the really nice thing about these, I like a lot, is that the episodes are very short. I mean, look at this, 48 seconds, 1 minute. 8 minutes is a long one. That's definitely on the long side. So it's not a big time commitment. It's very easy for people to get engaged. And when we break it up like this into episodes, you can come in and hit play on just the one story that interests you. And I think originally I was kind of planning on having audio episodes or no, audio editions in addition to audio articles. But that would have been the wrong path, because the episode or the story that's at the end of that audio file would probably be missed often, because people aren't going to necessarily listen to an entire hour-long episode. So by breaking it up like this, you can look at the headline, you can see a teaser, hit play, and just listen to that one story. And then, obviously let it keep playing. Now, here it is over on Spotify. It's a slightly different interface on Spotify, but Spotify is really investing a lot in podcasts. They're actually getting into video too. They're doing some very cool things. So it's a good platform to be on. And, anyone that has a Spotify account probably uses that as their podcast catcher. So they get all their podcasts and they follow all their shows here. So the bottom line is there's audience here. So you want to be here too. And it's not any more complicated for us to send it to this and Apple Podcasts. So, we might as well do both. And the one thing I want to point out with Wilson County that's pretty cool is they are taking this as an opportunity to springboard their manual podcast. So they have all these episodes, right? And they have the featured images from the episode. And these are the audio articles, because you can see it's 1 minute, 2 minutes. And let's just actually listen to one of these really quick, because I want you to hear what the other voice sounds like. We can do a male voice, female voice, different accents. Here's the female voice.
Audio articles on Wilson County news made possible by Witt's Barbecue Steaks and Catering in La Vernia.
So there's the audio ad.
Wilson County deputies arrest 2 at massage business on US 181.
Okay, and then this is actually they're going to be reading the headline in this example, and then the body.
Wilson County Sheriff's deputies arrested 2 women Thursday at a Floresville establishment advertising massage. Sheriff's vehicle.
Okay, so that is the example of the female voice. And if you were
audio articles on Wilson County,
play, it would just automatically play one episode after another. Okay, then back to the slideshow here. I just want to show one other really cool idea that I saw this week from Wilson County News. They're doing cross-platform promotions, which is great. And I think every newspaper should be doing this. Even if you don't have a podcast yet, you should be promoting your website in the print edition and vice versa. But they really did a great job here. They let me just show you the print PDF page. This is a full page article they did on the new podcast that they launched on Apple, Google, and Spotify. And they did a great job at educating their audience. And that's actually where I got the idea to tell you guys about what is a podcast. So we did that interview with editor and publisher. And so that's where this image came from. And so she introduces what a podcast is, how the audience is growing there, and then also just talks about specifically how are they producing the audio on their website and presenting it. So they are presenting it on the individual article level in the podcast apps and also on the homepage of every article on the website. So let's go back to that, because I haven't shown you that yet. I'll just use Signals for this example. This is what we can do for any publisher. So anyone listening today, no matter who you use for your website, we can do this for you right now. We can get a playlist just like this on your homepage that is an audio article of every story in your newspaper. So this is technically handled by a service we use called Buzzsprout. So and I'll explain this in a minute in more detail, but we're going to send every audio article produced on the website to Buzzsprout. That syndicates it out to the podcast apps, and then we get the embed code from Buzzsprout to create this player. So this is basically like getting a podcast app right on your homepage. And it's a great way to promote the feature so you don't, and again, if you're not on our WordPress platform, we cannot get the audio articles on the individual stories, but we can still get this playlist on the homepage and get the feed going to all your apps. So this is what I've been referring to throughout. I just want to explain it in a little more detail. The third-party integration, we handle this with an RSS feed, and any website out there can produce an RSS feed. So no matter what CMS you're on, if it's a proprietary system, even if it's your own WordPress blog or blogger or anything, any website can produce an RSS feed. So what you would do is provide us with the RSS feed. We would set up a demo site on our platform. Technically, that's how we would do it. It's not really important because no one's going to see this website. But we would take the RSS feed into our system. And so from your perspective, it would just work like this. You publish an article on your current website. That's going to trigger an article to go to us through the RSS feed. And then we will convert that to the audio article and feed it to the podcast apps. So it's kind of like the exact same thing that we do for our customers, except there's just that one extra step of the RSS feed coming into our system. If you're an Our Hometown customer, you would just publish on the website and we would just send it to the apps from there and create the audio article immediately. So for this, if anyone is interested on the call, I'd love for you all to reach out and just fill out this form on this page. I'll drop this link into the chat. We're doing a free trial of the podcast, and it is winding down. It's going to end on the 31st, but we're happy to get you going. You know, we could even get you started probably this afternoon if you can provide that RSS feed. If you need help finding the RSS feed or structuring it, we can also help you with that. But you know, there's still a few days left to try this out for free. So if you wanted to contact us, just go to that URL I just posted. Oops, I think I just did it to the panelists. Let me do it to everyone. Okay, there you go. And fill out this form. We just need a little bit of information, your URL, contact info, and then we will set you up with that podcast feed. So, and I wouldn't recommend, you know, during the trial, I think it would just be something to test internally so you could listen to your own episodes and just, you know, see if you like it. But then if you wanted to continue after the free trial, that's when you would want to start promoting it and get it embedded on your homepage, because, you know, you don't want to launch something and then just take it down the next week. So, you know, the free trial would be something I think that you would want to check out internally and then make a decision. We got a question here on costs. The cost for this feature, it's all inclusive for the transcription and also for the demo site that we would set up. It would be $99 a month for the premium audio articles, $74 a month for the standard audio articles. And there's just a small difference between those two. The premium just, you know, uses a little bit more computational power and machine learning to improve the quality and the add a little bit more intonation to how the audio articles are read, so they just sound more realistic. And I always recommend that one. It just sounds fantastic. So for under $100 a month, you could have this podcast fed to your website. It's cheaper for Our Hometown customers because we don't have to build the demo site for you. It would just be available as an add-on to any Our Hometown customers. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, now's your chance to get it in, and we're just about right on time, 35 minutes. So we'll wrap it up here in the next couple minutes. So get your questions in now. And let's see, how popular have audio articles become since January 2020? So this feature, which launched exactly like you said in January 2020, we had one customer using it then, and that was Signals AZ. And since then, let's see, we work with about 200 newspapers, and I think we're up to about 15 to 20% of them using this feature. So they are, either in the trial phase, or, they're just using the audio articles on their website, or, they're doing the podcast as well. Thank you very much, Kay. I appreciate you coming. Now, one more thing I just want to let you all know about is this series that we do. So beyond web hosting and, publishing on WordPress, we're really all about the community and building a community of publishers amongst our customers. And so we do a lot of virtual conferences on our own. And I'm just super proud to be part of America's newspapers and all these associations. But this is just a sliver of what we do. We're doing these our own virtual conferences at least monthly. And what we've got scheduled for the rest of the year is a whole series of conferences with Kevin Slimp, the news guru. And hopefully you've all had a chance to see Kevin live at one of your state associations or the National Newspaper Association. He does, he used to do those all the time when they were in person. Now I know he's doing a lot of virtual stuff, and he's doing webinars constantly. And so we have a great relationship with Kevin. I really like him personally. He's a great guy and a phenomenal teacher. So we have teamed up with Kevin, and we are sponsoring our hometown customers to attend his conferences completely for free. So if you are at all interested in switching to our hometown, now's the time to do it. If you wanted to sign up for a free prototype, we will set you up with a prototype. We can get you set up and launched. We've launched websites in as few as 4 days. And, typically it takes a couple weeks, but, just because a lot of publishers don't want to rush into things, but we can turn this around very quickly. And then you'll be in our hometown customer. You'll be part of the neighborhood, and you'll get all these sessions free. And so that's a huge value, because each of these sessions costs $89 per seat. And if you're a customer with our hometown, you get unlimited seats for your staff for all these sessions. So anyone that works at the paper could attend and learn about how to design the grad section easier. This is going to be a session on InDesign. Also, how to increase your revenue by designing more effective ads, probably a Photoshop focus session. But then he does basic classes on InDesign, basic class on Photoshop, advanced classes, which was the one we did in March, advanced Photoshop. And we're going to keep doing these through the end of the year. So we're really proud to team up with Kevin on this. And again, if you're at all interested in taking advantage of this just kind of bonus feature of being in our hometown customer, you can sign up for a free prototype. Just go to ourhometown.com/contact us. So let me post that link. Just enter your information in there. Again, no obligation for this prototype. We just want, I did it again. Oh no, I did it right. No obligation at all, and no cost. So if you can send us a PDF of your paper, we'll turn it into a website on WordPress in a couple days, and you can, see if you like what we can do for you. Now we have another question here. Do you think a lot of papers know about audio articles? That is a great question. I think that the word is still getting out. That is my job as the CEO, and I'm kind of the head of marketing at the same time, and sales. So, that is on me to get the word out. And that's what we're trying to do with these webinars. And, so if you want to learn more about us, please follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. We're constantly publishing things there. Actually, what we do with Facebook and Twitter is we use another feature that we have on our WordPress platform, which is the auto post to social media. And you can have that feature too. If you switch to WordPress, every article you publish on the website can be automatically sent to all your social media platforms. So that, doesn't seem like a lot of work to post on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, but it adds up, because you got to do it for every single story, and you're talking 3 or 4 platforms. That's a lot of time. So if we've automated that completely, and that's what we do for our marketing. So I'm trying to get the word out that way, and through all these great associations and all the connections that you have. And so also another question here, what would be the key fact to tell a newspaper to convince them to try audio articles? That is a great question. The key fact, I mean, I guess if I had to point to a fact, it would be some of those statistics that I mentioned earlier. 60% of the US listens to audio every week. So people are listening to audio. They're interested in getting news and information through their ears in addition to reading. But it's not just a text-based world anymore. It's video, audio, and we want to get into that arena, in any way that we can. And so just that combined with the fact that it's automated, I think is key, because no one wants to do more work. I mean, every publisher in America is already doing more than they ever have had to do before. As a newspaper publisher 20 years ago when this company started, a lot of publishers thought the internet was just going to go away, and they kind of hoped it would because they understood that it represented a lot more work. And it's like another social media network. Oh, great. Another place I need to copy and paste my stuff to get the word out. So the internet is diversifying, and it's segmenting into all these different areas because the technology is now there for people to get their media however they want. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's, you see people consuming a lot more audio, and that's just another mechanism to get the news out there. That's pretty much as simple as that. Okay, now we got a nice comment here from Amanda. So let's see her take. I think something to point out to newspapers to convince them to try audio articles might be that this is good. Everyone is multitasking these days. I listen to podcasts while I'm cleaning, working, driving, etc. Exactly. Same here. It's hard for some people to find the time to sit down and read a newspaper or a website. That is great. I love that point. You know what? Maybe at the end here, I can show you a quick video, because we produced an ad for this, and that's kind of the thesis of the video. So I'll show you that in a second. But one other couple more things. We're going a little over time here. I apologize for that. But we've gotten the meat of the conversation out there. So if you got to go, this video will be available. But for anyone that's considering switching to our hometown, again, you don't need to actually sign up and be a customer to take advantage of Kevin Slim's webinar series. He's allowing us to invite a handful of non-customers. If you're thinking about switching to our hometown and you're a prospective customer, then you can still qualify to win a free ticket to his next event, which is Tools and Ideas to Make Designing Your Grad Section Easier. So in order to get into that drawing, just go to this website. This is actually on our website. It's just a blog post here. So I'll post this to all attendees and panelists. Go to this page, fill out a really quick survey about your current website. There's also an opportunity for you to request a free prototype and see, what your paper would look like on our system. And then you would qualify to get one free ticket to this next event. So that's another way that you could take advantage of that. And, this is just something we're offering to people that are joining us for these webinars. Okay, last announcement. I just want everyone to know, as part of the virtual conference series that I was talking about, we're going to be having an event April 22nd, 2021 at 1 p.m. where we're going to interview publishers from Texas to learn about what did they do to deal with the 2021 blizzard that was just a total freak thing. Much of the state was not prepared for, and the disaster that really followed that storm. So it's disaster prep for newspapers. We're going to try to, establish some good take-home tips for any type of disaster, hurricane, snowstorm. These things are happening all over the country. And so what are the lessons that we can learn? There were some really interesting things that I've already heard about in talking to publishers about this. For example, I'll just give you a quick teaser. Wilson County News, they explained to me something I never really understood, the headache that comes about from when you have to skip a print edition. because you got all these advertisers that have already paid to be in that print edition, the process of refunding them or giving them credits, it's just a huge hassle. So what they did is they just printed a double issue the week that they came back. They couldn't print the week of the storm because the printer was down, but they printed both editions the next week. So they were able to get all those ads out there and, not lose any of that revenue. So that was just one really interesting tip that I thought, it's just like, now that I've heard it, it seems so obvious, but I never would have thought about that. So it's a good take home point. But we're going to be interviewing a bunch of publishers from Texas and hearing their stories. So I hope you can join us for that. You can register at our-hometown.com at that virtual conference link that we saw earlier. And so that's all that I've got for now. Again, drop any questions or comments you have. I really appreciate your comment, Amanda. That was a great one. So I want to use this as an opportunity actually to go to nna.org and let's see if we can show you. This is obviously another major association that we work with. And I think, okay, here it is. So we've got this video on their homepage. I think you'll like this, Amanda, because it's exactly what you said. Let me share this with you and we'll kind of end it here. Erica, I don't know if you wanted to say anything else, but I'll just show this 2 or 3 minute video. And then if you want to jump on, you can. So let's check this out.
The modern person is mobile-bound, multitasking, and always...
I want you to hear that beginning part.
The modern person is mobile-bound, multitasking, and always on the go. They don't have the time to sit down with a newspaper or even focus on a screen long enough to consume the local news. With over 60% of the United States listening to online audio every week, more people are tuning into podcasts as their preferred method of obtaining news and information. Many publishers have shied away from podcasting because of production costs. But what if creating a podcast for your newspaper could be completely automated? Introducing Audio Articles Podcast from Our Hometown. Now any publisher can have their website text converted to audio and fed to every major podcast app. Make your local news easy to access as a podcast playlist, which you can also embed on your website. Contact us at our-hometown.com/newspaperpodcast.
I couldn't resist showing you that because it was just literally exactly what you said, Amanda. So thank you for bringing that up. And that's all that I've got for today. Again, I want to post our website, our-hometown.com. You can come check out the webinar series, learn more about podcasts, or just contact us to request a free demo or a prototype. Thank you all so much. I appreciate your attention, and I think we're good for now. So have a great day. Enjoy your weekend, and I really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you for sticking around a little longer than I anticipated.
Thank you, Matt. We really appreciate your presentation and great questions, everyone. If you have a moment, we actually do have a question.
Yep,
could
sure.
you use audio articles as a teaching tool?
Wow. Yeah, I love dreaming about the different applications of this because you could use it for anything. I mean, you could turn books into, audio episodes if, assuming you had the rights to publish them. As a teaching tool in terms of, I can think of so many applications, but specifically, what do you mean by a teaching tool? Like by turning like a lesson for like a high school lesson into a podcast or something like that? Or
for hearing or visually impaired?
Oh, okay. I see. I missed this question earlier then. Okay. Could you, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, absolutely. I think for the visually impaired, it makes a ton of sense. And even, the hearing impaired, because, they can control the volume and, get it to whatever level they need if they, prefer to listen. It's not like it's, the radio or something where it's going to get like fuzzy at a certain level or, there's just not a lot of those same issues, but definitely the visually impaired. I think a lot of people that are visually impaired, they have some software that's probably built into their, tools, their browsers to convert the text on the website to audio already. But if they don't, and if they're just mildly visually impaired and they don't have all those setups, then absolutely, it's a great tool for that. It's a good point.
Great, thank you.
Right.
Well, I do not see any more questions. So just a little reminder, everyone will receive a follow-up email with instructions on how to access this recorded webinar later this afternoon. And then at the close of this, you'll receive a short survey. And if you could just take a minute or two to fill it out, it is very helpful for us in planning future programs. Thank you again, Matt, and thank you everyone for joining us. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Erica. Bye, everyone. I really appreciate you coming.